everybody, it's Matt Robinson. Welcome to another edition of the Writer's Block. Due to popular demand, we're taking the show on the road, and we're going to have a new series at Boston Public Market, which is at the Haymarket Tea Station in Boston. Starting on September 11th, I'll be talking with some of their team about a cookbook that they've put together with the vendors, who are some of really my favorite food makers in town. So I hope you'll come out to that. And then on October 23rd, I'll be speaking with our guest today, Jeanie Gruber, about her amazing new book and her great organization, WISHDISH, which we'll get to in a minute. Welcome, Jeanie.
Thanks.
So just for a little background, Jeanie is a social worker who became a caterer and restaurateur. I met her when she was running her commissary in Newton, because I still do the food segments on WBZ Radio with Jordan Rich, and we've become fast friends. And she told me about this organization, a nonprofit she's running called the WISHDISH Project, which can be found at thewishDishProject.com. And basically the premise is you go to homeless communities, talk to the guests about the dish they wish they could have again, like a favorite family recipe or something from their culture, and then you cook them at scale for the whole community. It's an absolutely amazing organization. I've actually participated with distributing the food on occasion, and the people love her, and she just came out with this book which has some of the recipes and, more importantly, the stories of the people who gave her the recipes. It's a fabulous book. I hope people will check it out. So let's go way back. First of all, how did you get into social work and kind of that way of sustaining and supporting people?
I think it was therapy was always, I just was always interested in kind of what made somebody sad, what made somebody happy, what made somebody's spirit come out. And it seemed like the route to go for me when I was in undergrad and then grad school.
Okay. Speaking of roots, you are from Louisiana.
Yes.
Did that play into the food culture being strong in your background as well?
That is undeniable. I actually grew up in Baton Rouge, and the food was just nonstop. Talked about, valued gumbos and, fried catfish, and people were just, that's all we talked about, I think. That's all I remember is food.
So that clearly stayed with you when you came. So you still have a home in New Orleans.
In New Orleans,
right,
now.
And a home
Yeah.
here in Newton.
Right.
And then you're visiting children and grandchildren on both coasts. It's a lot to juggle. How did the organization come together, and how are you still maintaining it?
We were down in New Orleans, probably, it was pre-pandemic, so probably 5-6 years ago. And I began to volunteer at a organization called Grace at the Green Light. And they serve breakfast 365 days a week to homeless people who literally all slept under the I-10 interstate and would walk at 6 a.m. to one of the most dangerous streets in New Orleans to have breakfast, a wonderful breakfast, hot coffee. And the one thing they needed there when I talked to the woman that was running the program was like a muffin or a cupcake or something sweet that they could get. So I volunteered to do that and became known as the cupcake lady or muffin lady, I think, at the project, which I began to adore the people I was with.
Did it take a little while to be accepted in the community?
I always tell this part of it, that I met with them, the director, and offered to do this, and then the day I was supposed to begin, I woke up, it was still pitch dark outside, and I thought, oh my God, what have I done to volunteer to go work in this very dangerous part of New Orleans, and how would I be received? I was probably equally as nervous about that, and so quickly. The guests and the volunteer staff were so open to a person that looked different than they did, from probably a different part of life was there, and I was kind of so touched by their receptivity, I think, that I stopped being as nervous about going.
So at first you were bringing what the staff was asking for, like the cupcakes.
Right.
Where did you get the idea of actually engaging the guests and talking to them about their food memories?
Well, after being there for a while, I had my catering business up here in Boston, and I thought, I'll ask each of the staff what dish was their favorite dish and make them a dinner, because they were so wonderful. And so I did that, and as I was doing that and writing their recipes down on a napkin, which was the only paper I could find, I thought, wow, why don't I go out and ask the guests what dish is their favorite dish? And then shortly thereafter thought, wow, why don't I just make this whole thing into a cookbook of the staff's favorites as well as the guests' favorites.
And you cook all the meals in your home kitchen on your own, and then bring them back to the facility? Mm-hmm. How long between starting at Grace and the Greenlight did you start up in Boston, and who's your partner up here? What's the facility?
We came back home and back to Boston in, I guess, February, March, and the pandemic.
Of what year? What year roughly?
What year is pandemic?
20, so 2021, somewhere in there? Okay.
And I had a bunch of catering jobs scheduled up here, and overnight catering stopped. And I'm like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do all day? And a friend of mine's husband worked at the place on Newberry Street in Boston. And so I called him to see if they might be interested in my asking them about their recipes and what dishes they would like, and he said yes.
Oh, so that's the Common Cathedral, which
yes,
is at the church on Newbury Street?
Yes,
Bagley.
Emmanuel Church on Newbury Street.
Now that is not the most dangerous neighborhood in Boston.
No, as a matter of fact.
How does that dynamic work with this community kind of coming in, coming out, hanging around? Have you noticed any tension there with the neighbors?
It's amazing, and I'm not just being idealistic about it. I was shocked at how well it goes. And particularly during the pandemic, the guests of the project were not allowed inside. And so they were all eating out on the steps. There are 3 sets of steps. And Newbury Street was still happening. That's between Arlington and Berkeley, where some of the fanciest jewelry stores and shoe stores are. And just still to this day, people, they just notice, but they don't call attention to it. I can just say their conversations don't stop. They keep talking.
How about being accepted by the community in Boston? Was there a difference that or what are the differences that you've noticed between the community in New Orleans and the community here in Boston?
I think receptivity was similar. It did, up here, I was actually cooking the entire lunch for them, their entire recipe. And so they were a little less believing that I actually was going to do it. It took the first person that I approached was a young man in his early 20s, and he wanted barbecued ribs. And he actually came out with a delicious recipe for a dry, wet rub for his ribs. So he even really knew food, I could tell. And he just in no way believed that I was going to bring him and the rest of the community ribs the following week. So when I pulled up, he was like a little shocked. He recognized me. And then when I actually got out with these ribs and I had made him his own little package so he could have it. He was surprised, and then it took, I'm going to say, probably 3 or 4 weeks for the guests to really, really believe that what they wished for, what dish they wished for, was actually going to arrive the following week.
What about the community itself? What are some of the differences you've noticed in terms of the people at each place? Or is it more diverse up in Boston in terms
Far
of culture?
more diverse.
And so that encourages a more diverse recipe back.
Recipes, definitely. The Boston homeless, at least the community there, is just from every country around practically. And the recipes that they frequently come up with are ones that their grandmothers or mothers or aunts cooked back in their countries that they haven't had any access to for years. And that's the one that they seem to kind of dream about when they can dream.
How did you pick the recipes that went in the book? Is it that they're just the most complete, or ones that were the most interesting for you to make, or were some just because of the stories and the people?
I think it's a combo.
Yeah.
That's such a good question that I don't even know the answer to, except I think it really was probably a combo of things. And many of the recipes were not as complete as actually the first one was, the rib recipe.
Oh, so you had to do some research.
Totally, which really became a very fun, for me, part of it, of looking up just from like a description of where they were from, the country they were from, and maybe just a couple of seasonings. I would say, are there any seasonings that you remembered, or was it spicy? Or I try to see if I could elicit a little more information about something about it. Some of them were from a teacher they had. I remember I included that, a lasagna, and we named the dish after their teacher because that was a teacher who had made this particular person stay after school and do her work. And in retrospect, this guest had really appreciated
saw some value and talent and wanted to encourage that.
Yeah, and wanted there to be a recipe in her honor. That was really nice.
What are the main differences you've noticed between your catering clients and the people you've met at Grace the Greenlight and Common Cathedral?
It's one of the funniest things for me about it that I didn't quite know how to respond to on the first time it happened was, and then began to absolutely appreciate it, is that the homeless community in general will say what's on their mind. They're not trying not to hurt somebody else's feelings. Not that they're not respectful, because they actually are respectful, and say thank you all the time, or say that was really tasty. On the other hand, they will let me know if they didn't like the way I cooked something, or didn't add enough spice or enough salt or enough, something to their dish. So I won't say often, but frequently enough, they will say, hey, Miss Jeanie, that, I don't know, you needed to bump that up a little bit. And so now I've learned, keep my ego out of this whole thing. And, I'm happy that they're telling me. And we laugh, and they act. So the bottom line, they're more truthful. And probably other people think those kind of things too, but they're not going to come up to me at a party and tell me that.
But on the other hand, it must be really gratifying when they're like, this is just like my mother made, or, yeah.
And I like them to tell me that, by the way, and sometimes I'll even do a slight disclaimer depending upon the guest. I'm going to guess at what I think you're describing, and there's a chance it really won't be exactly like what you remember, but I hope, I'll do my best.
Have any of the guests come from a culinary background? That's
really good. Quite a few.
Oh.
I wouldn't say a lot, but I'd say quite a few people. Some have actually been chefs. One in Maison Robert, one of the oldest
Wow.
Boston. He really does know how to cut some meat and all kinds of things. Many have been line chefs, and many really like food. They're like foodies. I think they're foodies.
Well, they can come from any background at all. Just one. It's like when my students at the Norfolk County Sheriff's Office. They make one little misunderstanding and their lives are
Yes,
changed. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So you said it took a while for them to kind of accept you, but now they you become like the cupcake lady. They see your car, and what's it like when you go one day a week?
Go once a week.
Once a week.
Once a week.
Yeah. And it's really just they hold the door for you and help you bring the stuff in, and you're really part of the community.
Like when they see me arrive, yes, and they'll frequently parking's hard right there, and they'll kind of defend me to the parking lady. Come on, leave Miss Jeanie alone. She's bringing this food to us, and they're very just hop out to help me carry up food. Really nice about it. Some used to know my favorite thing is a cup of coffee, and they would come out the door with a cup of coffee.
Okay.
Very nice. Loved it.
Have some of the recipes made it into your home or even into some of your other events?
Definitely into our home. There have been several that, as I was experimenting with them, I, of course, tasted them, and really good. There's a Persian fried chicken recipe in there that I really loved, and kind of do it as part of, not necessarily weekly, but frequent meals, things like that.
Most of the recipes are pretty easy to find. One of them is just sort of like, here are the ingredients without measurements, throw them in a bowl and enjoy type thing, which is great.
Which I'd love to cook that way.
Yeah.
Not so much by recipe.
Yeah, but the real, I think the real driver is the stories. It's really to get to know these people through something as profound and deeply emotionally set as their favorite family recipe is a really brilliant.
It was a lead, and it's as I think we all pretty much know, it's pretty safe topic to lead in with somebody at the grocery store or wherever you happen to be, and it can take you far or not far with people. And I was always very careful, and still am. I don't ask beyond what they're interested in telling. As I went to write those stories of some of the guests, I didn't really know all that much because they hadn't volunteered it, and I just feel like it's not my place to pursue it.
Right. So this is the Boston edition. Is there a New Orleans edition in the works?
We've got those recipes. This was a little fresher in my mind, and I certainly hope to pick up on the New Orleans ones. Many of them are the classics of New Orleans and or the translation of classic, many of which from more country towns outside of New Orleans and Baton Rouge, the bigger cities,
so more
which is fun.
Where a lot of those recipes actually were established.
Originated,
right? And
exactly,
then made
their way,
name.
right?
Yeah,
made their way into New Orleans. A lot with collards and different gumbo recipes, different ways to make a roux, the base of a lot of Cajun and Creole cooking. But we hope so, too. We got some great photographs that people let us take. We were also very, very careful about taking photographs of people and making sure that they were comfortable. Wanted us to take their photographs. Some people don't want us to.
Right, understandably, yeah. What do you hope to do with the organization? Are you looking in other cities or other locations in Boston and New Orleans? And what, now that we have this book and you have this sort of tool to spread the word with, how are you hoping to grow things?
We're definitely, I have my feelers out in Boston for sure. I've done some work with Pine Street Inn, and they're interested in matching us up with a good site, a mutually useful site. I'm also realized that one of the populations that I've never kind of interacted with and given to enough, I feel like for me, is veterans. So I've started to try to make some contacts with even homeless veterans or veterans, or any place that it would bring a community together and honor kind of a person per day with their recipes. Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like it's sort of bringing your life full circle, because there must be a therapeutic element to the interactions that you have with the guests.
I don't know that
that they might not see it that way.
I hope it feels good to them. I think as a therapist, nobody ever knew I was one. Okay. Kind of never.
But do you feel those behaviors coming out at all, or those proclivities as from your past?
Just interested in who they are, and it's kind of with the unhoused homeless guests, who they are. Their spirit just pops out pretty quickly, even if it's a very quiet spirit. They stay kind of by themselves. It's also an art program at Common Cathedral called Common Art. So a lot of times somebody will be painting or drawing, so I'll just kind of quietly go and look at their work and start to talk about their work and segue into, did they know what I can do there? And we'll take a few minutes to talk about food. But that's fun.
Yeah.
And Matt, also you asked about, do I have hopes of being in other cities? I would love it. I have a son out in Los Angeles, and he wants me to get one going out there, and certainly many homeless people in LA, so that's a possibility. We'll see.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, so people, to find out more, they can go with the WISHDISHproject.com is the website. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so if you have anyone out there with connections or want to be supportive, because it's self-funded primarily, yeah?
Totally.
It's your kitchen, and you buy the ingredients, and even through all the research and the experimentation. So this is really quite a labor of love for you. So hopefully the book will help get the word out and get some support together. And we're going to be talking about it on October 23rd at Boston Public Market, and hopefully elsewhere as well.
Hopefully.
But it's obviously been great to have you here. It's a great, I mean, the recipes are fun and creative and
doable,
cookable. Doable. Yeah, I mean, they're just real and authentic. But the stories, I mean, I've not a great chef, but I really got engaged with the stories and wanted to see what they loved so much about it, about the recipe. So it's really been, and the story behind the organization that you've been able to share today is really uplifting, because I mean, it must be wonderful for them, for the guests, to just have someone who's interested in them, because I'm sure so many people just walk on by, unfortunately, or worse, and so to have someone engage and be willing to give to them and to their community out of your own goodness is a really wonderful thing. I'm really glad you could join us on the show.
Thanks,
you.
Matt.
And thank you, everybody, for joining us on the Writer's Block. We hope to see you at Boston Public Market and back here next month.